So, a few things from last week. Did you read the story about the Ligon, the song from Poltava? You know, and at the end of the story, say there was a certain Polish Rebbe who visited the Rebbe of Lubavitch. There was a time Rabbi Shmuel of Lubavitch, called him the Rebbe Maharaj. And he said to him, on my way here, I passed through Poltava, and I heard there a young man, the Rav of the city, and he's singing this song to himself, and he's davening. And I could tell from the song that this young man had been to the gates of hell and back. So the Rebbe Maharaj, Rabbi Shmuel, asked him, how could you tell? He said in the song, you could hear the love of a higher order.
You could hear what?
Love of a higher order. So that was, did I tell you the story last week, the story of that song?
I don't remember it.
I told you the story of Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish.
Yes.
That I told you. Right.
Yes.
So this was a different story. This was the story when he was a young man. Poltava was a fairly big city. And he, where is it? Poltava is in Belarus, I think. Anyways, maybe in Ukraine. So he was a young man. We don't know his name. We might know his name, but we don't know if it's him for sure. But anyway, when he was young, everybody thought, what a genius, what a prodigy this kid's going to be. He's going to turn out to be one of the great sages of the generation. Incredible. But he started reading Russian literature, French literature, all sorts of other things, got interested in other things. And he got into drama. In Russia, in the middle of the 19th century, drama was a big thing. That's where modern drama was developed. And so he joined the theater. And he was very good at what he did, as he was good at everything that he did. He was very good at this as well. So eventually, he's in the capital, in St. Petersburg. And his grand performances, and he's well known. So then he gets a role where at one point in the drama, in one scene, he has to play an older Jew who's saying Shema before going to bed at night. He knows what this is. He saw, like his father, his teacher saw, the older Hasidim, that before they would go to bed at night, they'd spend hours thinking about what they got done that day, what they didn't do, sobbing and crying, making a whole account, It's a big deal. So he knew what this was. But he didn't, he was just a brilliant kid. He never did that sort of thing. He just wanted to show how bright he was. He didn't want to make an accounting of his life. And now he certainly doesn't want to do that. But he's a real actor. He has to play the part. To play the part, you have to experience. You have to be there. This is where method acting came from. So he has to sit in his room and practice his part and really get into it and imagine that's who he's being. And he can't because he knows that if he gets into this, that's the end of him. He was going to start thinking about, did it really pay off to leave Poltava, to leave his family, leave his community, and live this life of an actor? He knows if he starts thinking about that, no, he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to go there. He keeps on trying. Anyways, it comes to the day of the performance, the night of the performance, and he gets to that part. And then it all opens up for him. And he's really into it. And he's sobbing. And the audience is enthralled for a while until it starts becoming apparent that this is not a performance. To the point that at one point, the big hook comes on stage and he gets pulled off the stage, and he's told, never come back here again. You ruined the premiere performance, So he left. He traveled to Lubavitch and saw Rabbi Shmuel, the Rebbe Maharaj, who told him what to do, how to fix things up. And he went back to Poltava, and he composed this song, the Poltava Niggun, that this other Rebbe heard him singing. Some say he was the person who was the Rav of Poltava, the Yaakov Mordechai Poltava. Now, I'll sing you a little bit of the Niggun. It goes like, Hayano, Hayano, O mama, mama, no, Hayana, no, Hayana, no, Hayana, no, Hayana, mama. Hayana, no. Aina, yana, na. Aina, yana, na, na. Aina, na, na. Aina, yana, na, na. Aina, na, na, na. Aina, yana, na. You know what? I'm singing the wrong niggun. That's the Baal Shem Tov's niggun. But the two sound very similar. So I'll start again. That's the Baal Shem Tov's niggun. This one goes like this, very similar. You'll hear. Oh, you know, no, 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 you know, no, no, no. So it's a completely different flavor. You know, no, 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 you know, no. Oh, you know, no. Mama, no, no, no. Ayana, 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 na. Ayana, 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 na. Oh, ayana, ayana, na. Ayana, 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 na. Adana, ayana, na, 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 ayana, 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 na, na. Adana, ayana, 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 na, na. Ayana, 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 na, na. Ahoy, no, 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 no. Oh, mama. I no, no. That's part of it. Can you hear what's going on inside a neshama? That song comes out of him. It is sweet and painful at the same time. So
I don't feel the pain, but
you don't feel the pain. Well, that's what I pointed out, that the Baal Tshuva takes all the ugliness and pain of his past, and he turns it around and makes it good. So makes it sweet. Like I told you about the violinist. I told about the violinist. I had my mentor in music school. Played strings, viola, cello, violin, and he was a musicologist. And most of what I learned from conversations with him. Most of what I knew about music. I said to him, David, why is it that so many of the great violinists are Jewish? And he looked at me like, how can I talk to such a peon? I said, what did I say wrong? He said, you implied, he was not Jewish, he was Anglican. He said, you implied in your words that there are or have been great violinists who are not Jewish. So I started naming, there was an Italian guy, a Korean lady, whatever, there's some of them, He said, those are not violinists, they're violin players. I said, well, there must have been, I started naming, he proved me each one of them was Jewish. So I said, well, what about piano? 60%, but violin, all of them. So I said, why? So he thought about it. He said, the violin, it's really a very painful sound. And the art of the violinist is take a painful sound and make it sweet. That's a Jewish thing.
Yeah.
I used to play the viola in high school.
Yeah, I play cello now. I picked up cello. It still sounds awful. Okay, so you were going to ask me.
Sorry?
You were going to ask something.
Well, I think I understand, but it is fueled by the soul that caught fire at the gates of hell. It's just that this is the guy who strayed.
Yeah.
And he got close to the gates of hell and then
turned around.
Returned.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Maybe he went through them. I don't know. It says this, the page before, it was obvious to me, he observed, that this young man has been to the gates of hell and back.
Yes.
So maybe he went through the gates too. We don't know his story. So what I want to point out, I want to go through the diagrams again, because that's going to make everything clear before we go on to the next section. So if we go to the diagram on page 161, no, before that, there's one on 157. Go to page 157. This was what happens when something is klippus noga. It's the shiny klippa. It's darkness with a touch of light. And actually, let's go one page earlier. You have to go one page earlier. When you do page 155, this is when you take something that's klippus noga, which is mobile klippa, like kosher food, kosher talk, things like that, and it could go either way. So the first scene, block, cell, is the clip has got a little spark of good in it, and it's in the realm of klippus noga. So it's something, either an activity or talk or something to eat, that's klippus noga. And then what happens is you come along and you make that light there dominate, the spark of good dominate within it, and it goes upwards into the realm of holiness, kedusha. Okay. So you told a good joke in order to start a class, or you used your home for a meeting of sages, or you ate your food on Shabbos, good food on Shabbos, or in order to be able to learn Torah better. Why else would you eat chocolate? So, and then you get to the next page, 157, is when you engage this klippus noga, but it wasn't for anything good. You didn't do anything sinful with it, but you weren't just eating it because you were eating it, you indulged in it. You were really, really into it, just for your own self-gratification. And in that case, as you see in cell number 2, it sinks down into the 3 completely tamic klippas. And then you say, what am I doing down here? I'm a Jew. My whole life is really only to serve Hashem. I shouldn't eat that way. Oh, you rescue it. That spark comes out of it again, because that spark never really got lost, and it rises all the way up to kedusha. So that's all when it's klippus noga, permissible stuff. It's klippus noga. It's not tied down. Then we got to on page 161. this was something that is locked down to the lower clippers. It's tied down. For example, it's the sort of talk that you shouldn't be talking, saying nasty things about people, or telling people, talking about people's private things in public, or making fun of people, or things that you shouldn't eat, or activities you shouldn't be engaged in. So then what happens is this thing is locked down. It's stuck down there. And once you've engaged it, it becomes completely locked down and lost. So really this thing could have stayed in its place. And in many cases, it could have been used for something good. Because we said that just because something is of the completely tamei klippos doesn't mean it can't be used for good. Like a horse is a tamei animal. It's not kosher. You can't eat horse meat. But you can ride a horse, and maybe you ride the horse for a mitzvah. I mean, Abraham rode a donkey, camels, they're not kosher, but you could use them. But once you've slaughtered this horse and eaten its meat, it's stuck down there. It's just there. What are you going to do about it? It's lost. The horse lost its chance. There's another possibility. Maybe you enlisted in the Tsar's army, and everybody's starving, and all there is to eat is horse meat. And if you don't eat the horse meat, starvation, then the horse meat becomes permissible. And then a person can eat the horse meat, and it rises, if he does mitzvahs with that energy, somehow in the Tsar's army, he rises to holiness. But otherwise, it's got locked down. So it's not just it got locked down, but the person's energy, that whatever you invested into that, is also now locked down. So as we're talking about investments, you make these investments, and there's no way really to divest. And life is all about investments. Everything you do is another investment. So investments in things that are completely tamei is very problematic. How do they get out of there? So then,
How do you get out of it?
what?
How do you get out of it?
Well, so I said you can't divest. The only thing you can do is turn that thing around. That was like the Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon bar Lakish. He took all of that energy that he had put into robbing and murdering and so on, and he put that energy into learning Torah. And this Poltava Rav will put that energy into his tshuva and his songs. So you could turn that energy around, and then it's actually an explosive energy, as you see in the diagram on page 165. It's an energy that breaks through those chains, and it gives you a kind of energy that you wouldn't be able to get had you not been in that place. That's how he explained it. That since you were in such a distant place and you experienced that distance, so that gives a special energy now to all of your mitzvahs and all of your Torah learning that you wouldn't have without that. And the classic example really is not Reish Lakish or the Poltava. It's Avraham Avinu, the first Jew, because the first 40 years of his life or so, he was worshiping idols with everybody else. So, and nevertheless, when you get to the end of his life, he say that all of his years were good. Every day of his life was good. How could every day of his life was good? The first 40 years, something say 48 years, he was in darkness. Nobody turned that around. If you would ask him, you would ask Avraham Avinu, oh, what a waste those first 40 years, you were doing all the wrong thing. Don't you regret that? He says, regret? That's how I came to the truth. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to do what I've done now. So that was his path to the truth. So, but that's only if you turn it around. Then you get this explosive energy. Yes, in here I see that I wrote that the Poltava is on the Vorskala River in central Ukraine, not in Belarus. So forget that. Okay, now that we know that, we can go on to the next two cases. the next two cases, which are a bit racy, okay? So we gave the example of things that are tied down, it's forbidden intercourse, adultery, incest, those things, that's forbidden. So therefore, the energy that gets invested there is stuck until a person does this tremendous tshuva. But the key to all of this is this energy tied down, not tied down, how tied down it is. Now we get to two cases where the energy is tied down in a different way. One case where it's tied down, but not so tied down. And one case where the energy is very tied down. Okay, so page 167. We're there now, right? Although the energy of semen released in a forbidden act is tied down to the lower clippers, so it's stuck there until he does tremendous tshuva, the grip of these forces is not always the same. So it's called semen that's ejected didn't go into a female. It descends and merges into the 3 tame clippers, but it's not as tied down as it would be in forbidden intercourse. It can ascend there through the appropriate tshuva, along with intense focus in saying the bedtime Shema. So it has to do a proper tshuva, but it's not the same type of tshuva that you would need for forbidden intercourse, but you need that tshuva, and also intense focus when saying Shema. So this is something we know from the teachings of the Arizal. It's also hinted to in the Talmud when it says anyone saying the Shema before going to sleep is as though he holds a double-edged sword. So the Shema eliminates the bodies of the negative forces that became the investments of the semen's energy. So that energy went into these negative forces and gives them life. Okay, so your tshuva sort of pulls that energy out, but there's still these negative forces there. So once they're eliminated, then this energy can ascend back to its place, as is known to those familiar with Kabbalistic teachings. This explains why the sin of deliberately wasted semen is not mentioned in the Torah among the forbidden tied-down sexual acts, although in other respects, should be an S there, the sin of deliberately wasted is more serious than them. This person bears a major sin for generating and multiplying many times over the amount of tuma and klippas. So increases them very, very much. Okay, so there's a lot of tuma there, but it's not as tied down. So it's in forbidden relations doesn't increase the amount of tuma as much, but it does greatly increase the tamic klippas power and energy. So it's strengthened to such a degree in forbidden relations, in forbidden intercourse, you can't lift the energy out of there until you do a tshuva of such great love. Whereas this, it's easier to pull it out. So that's one case. Then the next case you have of the mamzer. Why is it? Okay, let's see. Explains the statement of the sages. It says in Koheles, that's Ecclesiastes. There's a crooked thing that cannot be fixed. The sages ask, what is this crooked, irreparable thing? And they answer with an example. So there's more than one case, but this is one example they give. A man engages in intercourse with a woman forbidden to him, like she's a married woman, or it's an incestual relationship, not just out of wedlock, but it has to be completely forbidden to him, somebody he wouldn't be able to marry. So the cause is a mamzer to be born. Okay, in such a case, even if this man would do such a powerful transformative tshuva, he cannot fully repair the damage. So he did tshuva. So it means he's forgiven. He's 100% forgiven. But now we're not talking about how forgiven he is. We're talking about the damage that he's caused. Well, he caused damage. And he can't fix that. So a guy wrote to me once, he said he was in a relationship with a non-Jewish woman. He had a child. And then he decided that he wasn't being a good Jew. He had to be a good Jew. And he started keeping kosher, started keeping Shabbos, and eventually left his wife and left a child. And now he's a good Jew. And he wants to know, do I still have to support the child? I said, well, yeah, you can't get around that. The child's in this world because of you, right? The child's not Jewish, but you have a responsibility because you brought that child into the world. You can't shirk your responsibilities. So when after writing that, I heard a story in Israel. Some Chabad rabbis there were visiting a prison. They came across this guy, and they felt really bad for him. He's telling them the whole story. Like everybody in prison always tells you they're 100% innocent. But this guy was so clear. He says his partner got him into all this trouble, explained how it happened, and then ran off and blamed the whole thing on him. And he ends up in prison. Nobody knows where his partner is. Nobody knows where he is. Okay, give us some, information about him. And they managed to track him down. They tracked him down and they found him in a kelo, learning in Israel. And now he's got beard and payas and the whole bit. And he's sitting there. He's like, so religious. And they tell him, your partner's sitting in prison because of you. You have to do something to help him out. And he admits that it was his fault. So what are you going to do? He says, you don't understand. Since then, I did teshuvah. I'm not the same person anymore who did all those things. No. See, but you can do the teshuvah. But the damage, there's still damage here. So what are you going to do about the damage? So in this case, you can't repair the damage. There's a child that's born and the child is here. And it's impossible for this man to carry this energy back up to holiness since it's already descended into this world and become invested within a body of flesh and blood. So now this explains, with this, we understand now this situation of the mamzer, because the mamzer is very difficult to understand. And the rabbis say this. In the Gemara, the rabbis say, what's it his fault? It's not his fault. Why is he, locked in this situation? The mamzer can't get married. He can't marry a Jewish girl.
What if he converts?
What if what?
What if the mamzer converts?
No, the mamzer is Jewish. The mamzer means this man had a relationship with a woman. No, a non-Jewish woman is not a mamzer. If he has a child from a non-Jewish woman, that's not a mamzer.
It's a mamzer.
A mamzer is somebody relationship with a Jewish woman who is forbidden to him in marriage, which would be a close relationship or a married woman. Okay, so then there's a mamzer. It happens very often in America where people have an Orthodox marriage and they divorce but the woman never gets a get. And then she remarries and a child is born. So or they have a conservative get, which is not really a get. It's printed in the office, not done properly. So the child's a mamzer. Okay, so what's it the child's fault? The child now cannot marry a Jewish woman. So that's like, what's the child? Why is it the child's fault? So here you see what the problem is from here. This energy of this man got invested into the lower clippers. It's stuck there. And he could have done a tremendous tshuva and pulled it out, but the child's born already. And now this negative energy is there within this child and stuck there. And if he would have a child from a Jewish woman, his child would be a mamzer.
But that child, what they were saying, that child can't convert? The child's stuck?
The child's Jewish. The child could be, he could be the Kohen Gadol.
But
you could have a Kohen Gadol who's a mamzer.
And he can't marry a Jewish?
This might be a problem because he has to be married to be a Kohen Gadol. But okay.
But I understand your point.
Yeah, but he could be a great person. That's not the issue. Is he can't get married. He can't be married to a Jewish woman. His only really a mamzer could marry a mamzeres, but no rabbi would do that because the children are going to all be mamzerim. his only way out is to buy a non-Jewish woman as a servant, and then free her, and then he could have children through her, and they wouldn't be mamzerim. I heard it when I was in Montreal. I heard of somebody who went off to China and did it. I don't know. But anyways, but the question, like, what's the kid's fault? How can you punish the child like that? But now this way you understand it, that there's a negative energy there, and it's locked there because it's flesh and blood by now. It's not just energy; it's material.
Wait,
now.
so let me just ask a question. So having a child with a non-Jewish person doesn't make the child a
The
mom.
child's not a mom.
It's doing a forbidden relationship. So what about?
Yeah, well, that is a forbidden relationship, but not one of the forbidden relationships that bring about a mamzer.
So what about King David with what's her name?
With Bathsheba.
Yeah, I mean he waited till the husband died, right?
Yeah,
So he it wasn't a mamzer.
the child died anyway. So
No, I mean with King Solomon.
no, the first child that he had from Bathsheba died. The second child was King Solomon, but the first child, after King David was doing tshuva and crying, and he couldn't pick him up from the floor, when they told him that the child died, he realized his tshuva had been accepted.
Oh, that was. No.
Yeah, but not 100% accepted. He went through the whole revolt with Avshalom and everything, and he felt that was like his atonement. But no, a child, and if it's a Jewish woman with a non-Jewish man, the child's a Jewish child.
Right.
So it's just those other relationships, which unfortunately we have a lot of today in America.
So it's basically like, I mean, a lot of these cases are just cheating.
Cheating.
Cheating that leads to children. So if people are in a marriage and they're cheating and it leads to a child, that's a mom.
Yeah. So what Rabbi Moshe Feinstein did is he said that if it's a common law marriage, they didn't go to a proper Orthodox marriage with witnesses and so on, then it's not a real marriage. And if she leaves that and didn't have a divorce and then got married to somebody else, the child will not be a mamzer.
Say that again.
So it says like this. A couple was living together, or even they had a marriage, but they didn't have a marriage with chuppah and witnesses and so on. And then they divorce without a proper get, without proper divorce. She remarries, right? The children of that marriage are not mamzerim because the first marriage was not a real marriage. Talmudic law, that's not so, because the Talmud says that if couples living together, they're married, right? Because why would you live together illicitly when you could live together and be married? So obviously you must be married. But Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says that doesn't apply in America anymore. In America, people live together not for the purpose of being married, because they want to be able to walk out at any moment. And so it's not a real marriage. And anyways, we're getting into a whole other area. The point is here that there's something that's very difficult to understand unless you know the Kabbalah behind it, that there's some energy happening in there. Both of these cases are difficult to understand. It talks there before about the feminine of Klippa, that actually it's over here, absorption within the feminine of Klippa. And so I gave a whole explanation here of what the feminine of Klippa is. But I don't know that we have to go into that. Oh, okay, we will. Okay, the feminine of Klippa. Let's read this note over here. 171. Kabbalists talk about the masculine and feminine elements of God's creation. Every scale From every frame of reference, find a repetitive theme of two elements fusing into one, transmission and reception. That's the masculine and feminine. Masculine is transmission and feminine is reception. In Hebrew, that's mashpia or makabel. So energy transmits, matter receives. That's masculine and feminine in the universe. The energy can't do any work until matter receives it. So the masculine can't get anything done without the feminine. A soul transmits life, but life needs a body. So again, you have the life and the body, that's masculine and feminine. A great idea can't come to fruition without a plan. Masculine and feminine. Everything works that way. A woman takes masculine energy and creates from it a family and a home. If you don't have a woman, you don't have a home. You can say, I'm living in a house, but you're not living in a home unless it's a man and a woman. The Jewish people take God's Torah and make this world a godly place. So God is masculine, we are feminine. We're the feminine of God. So you'll notice that this dynamic always results in restraint and containment. So how do you see that? The mass of an object limits the amount of energy it can receive and work with. The complexity of a body determines the sort of life it can receive, right? So you can only put so much energy into so much matter. This body can take this kind of soul. If it's a mouse, it takes a mouse soul. If it's a lion, it takes a lion soul. I'm not going to put a lion soul in a mouse. I've seen people like that, but it shouldn't happen. Okay, and ideas can never come out in practice as ideal as they are in theory. You have a great idea, it's never going to be in practice as good as one in theory. How does it go? That in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there is. So, because it's always going to limit it. There's always some restraint there. Okay. So again, every transmission, there's compromise. So that's what's happening here. There's a transmission of raw male energy, right? So we said, if it goes into feminine, into a woman, so then it's contained, it's limited. And the damage is limited as well. No, the damage can not so limited, but it's limited the amount. But if there's no feminine receiving it, so then it's much, much more prolific and much more difficult to gather it back together. So that's the point over there. Here's a chart at the end of everything that happened in this chapter. Very complex, not a complex chapter. It's not complex once you see this chart. There's 8 different cases. So let's go through all 8 of them. There was purposeful eating. Do you see the chart? Got the chart again? Purposeful eating, which is mutter. So by engaging in purposeful eating, right, you're eating food which is permissible, mutter, it's untied. You engage the good of this klippus noga, and you invest your soul and energy in food energies. That's your investment. I'm investing in food energies right now, and I'm making them really good. I'm investing in them, making them into holiness. And what's elevating them? Why are they rising in quality? Purely because of my intent. I had the right kavana. I was eating it for the right reasons, or drinking it for the right reason.
Amen.
I hope that was drinking for the right reasons. So it rises up into holiness, and now the tea is holy. A holy tea. Or you can have at your table a holy cow, because you're eating it for Shabbos. Purposeful joking was the next case. Rabbi told a joke before the class. It's mutter. He didn't tell an obscene joke, God forbid. And he gained the good of klippus noga. He found the good within that joke, which is that it can spirit on the Torah learning. So he invested his energy, his soul energy, into joke energy. And he raised that joke up into holiness. It became a holy joke. Why? Only due to his intent. Well, there it's not just his intent, because the joke actually spurred on the Torah learning. Maybe even without that intent, it would have been like, eating food on Shabbos. It would have risen up, as long as it's a good joke. If it's a bad joke, for sure you need the intent. Okay, then there's the third case was gluttonous eating. He's eating something that's mutter. It's permissible food, but he's engaging the bad of the klippus noga, the selfish stuff of it. So he's investing these food energies temporarily into the 3 tamei klippus. How does he get out of it? He just walks himself back. A simple tshuva. He says, I shouldn't be doing that. Let me get back to doing things the right way. And now that food goes back up.
But Rabbi, you're allowed to do it, right? It's just not a good idea.
Are you allowed to eat gluttonously?
Mutar.
Yeah, it's permissible, but by doing that, you are obviating, doing things right. There's a mitzvah to kadesh atzmacha b'mutar lach, to make yourself holy in whatever you do. That's a mitzvah. So he said, no, I don't want to do that mitzvah. I want to just do this for myself. You're sinking yourself
So
down.
3 and 4 is like you're not sinning, but you're being like a lazy Jew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing, you could have been just talking a bunch of nonsense just for the sake of talking nonsense, and telling jokes just because you're enjoying the joke, so on. That's not, like, it's not what a Jewish neshama should be doing, not what a piece of God from above should be doing in this world. So the person sinks down. He's got to turn around at some point. And in the meantime, all that energy is invested in this lousy places.
That makes sense.
And that's pulling him down more and bringing him in contact now with things that are completely tummy. Because after all, I told you this case. I told you the case of you had workers working for you, and they're working for food. I told you that case.
Mm-hmm.
They're working for food, and you fed them a meal, and after they left, you found out the food wasn't kosher. Remember, what do we have to do in that case? You realize I fed them a meal, which was part of their pay, and then I realized afterwards I found out the food wasn't kosher. Everybody thought it was kosher. When they ate it, they thought it was good. I found out it wasn't kosher. What do? I have to pay them the value of that meal. Or tell them, come back tomorrow and I'll give you a kosher meal. Why? Because a Jew is not satisfied from eating non-kosher food. Even if he didn't know it wasn't kosher. Okay, so the question comes up, well, why are so many Jews attracted and crave even non-kosher food? How is that possible? Eat clams, shrimp, whatever. How's it possible? So the way it becomes possible is first, okay, if they grew up with it, that's one thing. They didn't grow up with it. So first you indulge in permissible food, and that takes you down into that realm of the tamei klippus. And then you become insensitive, and you can even enjoy something that's not kosher.
It's like a gateway drug.
Yeah, gateway drug, yeah. Indulgence is a gateway drug.
If I go and eat in a rabbi's house, whatever rabbi, and the food turns out to be not kosher, I haven't sinned, have I?
No, you haven't. I'll tell you.
Because I can assume that the rabbi is giving me kosher food.
Yeah. You just assume that.
Right.
I mean, you have communities that have many cases of communities that, after many years, discovered the virtue of serving them treif meat. Happened in New Jersey, a big community happened in Los Angeles. So I'll tell you a story. I remember I was a student in Montreal for 2 years in Colo there. And I remember coming once for lunch, and there weren't so many guys around. It was already like off season. So I sat down for lunch, and somebody says, it tastes like meat in this soup. And there's milk on the table, cheese. Somebody says, it can't be meat. This is lunch. I never serve meat for lunch. Tastes like, must be fish. They're not going to put fish in there. But it can't be meat because it's a kosher place. What are you talking about? So half the guys are not going to eat this. And the other half were eating it because they're hungry. The cook comes rushing in. Don't eat the soup. So then you saw, who's who over here. I remember the same thing in Los Angeles when they found a hot place where everybody's buying their meat. It's like that old specialty cuts and everything there on Pico Boulevard. Everybody went the best cuts, you went there. And then they exposed the guy, put a camera, and found out that whenever the mashgiach left, the whole truck came in and they brought in all these treif stuff. So my brother-in-law told me he never bought from that place. Why? He says he couldn't understand how they could sell such expensive cuts for so little. Something's wrong. So he never bought from that place. So it says, if you're really careful about keeping kosher, God protects you. If it really matters to you, you're protected when it comes to kosher food.
It happened in my hometown, in South Africa, where one of the butchers was giving kosher.
Say Selah.
One of the butchers was supposed to be kosher.
Yeah.
And it turned out that he was cheating a little bit.
Yeah.
And it became a big scandal in the
Yeah. It happens very often.
People buying from him surely shouldn't be guilty of sinning.
Historically, it's a long history of this happening. Usually the shochet you can trust, but the butchers have always, whenever there's money involved. So that's what happens.
So are you guilty if you ate it unknowingly? So
we say it's called a shogeg. If you were living in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, you would have to bring a korban. A korban, an offering, right? Because there's still, if you were capable of doing it, there must be something wrong. If you're whole, you wouldn't be able to. Couldn't happen to you. No. So if it did, must be something wrong. But it happens with kosher. That's why we're so careful about where did the meat come from. You go to any event, you ask, whose meat is this? Whose shchita is this? Because you just don't know. Okay, so these cases of the next case, number 4, mindless permissible intimacy. They weren't mekadesh themselves, didn't make it a holy event, so it's mutter, but it's the same thing as gluttonous eating, and it has to be turned around afterwards. Went down into so that's this dark area. You didn't bring it up, but you did bring it down. Right. But it can be retrieved.
Why is it only for men on number 4?
What?
Can it be for women too?
Yeah, their energy, but here the man has actually physical, the energy invested in something physical. So it's much more for the man than for the woman. Although that energy is inside her for some period. And can be a child, and the child is stuck with this stuff as well. So that's why if the parents do sanctify themselves, it's good for the children. Okay, then there's forbidden eating. The food is asur, and the activity is asur. So you engage then in the 3 tamei klippos, these lower ones, and you put into food energy in this case. So it's stuck there. You need a very extraordinary tshuva, and the same thing applies with forbidden intimacy. It needs a very extraordinary tshuva. Then we had these 2 exceptional cases. Wasted semen, it's semi-permanent. It's just a regular tshuva and the shema. And the other exceptional case of the mamzer, where it's invested there and it's irrevocable. You can't get it out of there. And there is no tshuva to get it out of there. The tshuva gets you forgiveness, but doesn't get it out of there. So let's summarize with what we have discovered. Yeah.
What is extraordinary tshuva?
Extraordinary tshuva was the type of tshuva that he described as being where was it? On page 162, where it says, or this energy of yours could return from these cliffs when you return to God with a powerful tshuva, so powerful that your deliberate sins become your virtues. And describe what kind of a tshuva it is, that you're thirsting for God like a parched. So why? Because you were at the ultimate distance. You were so far away, so you have this great thirst. So the sin itself, the fire of hell, is burning in you and making you do mitzvahs with much greater thirst. So the sin now becomes good fuel. The sin is powering your mitzvahs. Oh, the sin became a good sin. Your lousy past became a good past because it's fueling this stuff. Made you such a great person.
Isn't
That's the extraordinary tshuva.
forbidden intimacy? That's like
Yeah.
having sex with family member, forbidden member.
Yeah.
That's you're subject to correct there, aren't you?
Yeah.
So
But a person could still do this extraordinary tshuva.
and not have correct.
Could still be necessary, but it doesn't mean that that's part of the kapara. It's not part of the forgiveness. He's forgiven, and what he's done has been fixed. If a child wasn't born out from this, he's corrected all the damage, but so it might be that he still needs. Depends on says says Oven Bes Eli. You know, Eli was Kohen Gadol, and his sons got involved in things they shouldn't have, and so God says that it's not going to be forgiven for all the generations. So there were the Kohanim who were descendants. His descendants died young. They died before they were 50 or 60. But it says that those who were engaged in Torah lived longer. Those who engaged in Torah and many good deeds lived even longer. So, to some extent, sometimes you're able to clean up as much as you can of the damage, and then something else has to happen to clean up more of the damage. And that's why he says that when a person's done tshuva, and then some pain, some suffering comes, he embraces that. Oh, that's part of the cleanup for me. That's part of cleaning up the damage that I need. That's why I have to go through this, to clean up the damage. And it becomes much easier that way. So if you look at every unfortunate thing that happens, nacha kapara, they say in Yiddish, it's another kapara, zalzaina kapara. It's cleaning me up. I needed that to clean me up. So then you accept everything with simcha. Happened, yeah, okay. I needed that kapara, now my soul's even cleaner. Right? Well, that's after the person's done tshuva. You've done the tshuva, and then things get cleaned up. It's an interesting phenomenon. It often happens with people that start keeping Shabbos and kosher and everything, and then their whole life falls apart. I've seen it many times. They lose their job, they lose everything. And they say that the reason is because until now, they were receiving all their energy through the klippah. And now that they're keeping all these mitzvahs, they can't receive energy through klippah anymore. They have to receive it from kedusha, from holy. So the job has to go. All those other things have to go, and life has to start anew to receive from a different place. So that's why that happens. I saw it actually in the Likutei Moharan from Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. He gives that explanation. I'm sure it must be another place. So that's the last thing, chapters. And what have we discovered? You live in the domain of Klippas Noga, the intermediate switchable Klippa. Your human animal soul, your kosher food, and all activities permitted by Torah powered by Klippas Noga. Okay. That, number two, that empowers you to live for a higher purpose. Connecting your animalistic soul, the food you eat, and all that you think, speak, and do to holy energy. On the other hand, by only seeking self-gratification, you connect them to bad energy. And then the next thing we learned is that halacha is real. If the Torah prohibits something, it's tied down to the lower klippas. Any energy you invest there won't be easy to retrieve, so don't invest in those things. And then 4, with the right sort of tshuva, you can retrieve almost any wasted energies, almost, of your life from the klippas. But
Rabbi, tshuva is between a person and God, right? Can you do tshuva with a person to person?
Well, if the thing that you've done has involved a person, so God can't forgive you until you first go to that person and get their and at least ask their forgiveness. If they're a stubborn person, they keep on asking and asking, and then they slam the door in your face or beat you up. Then okay, I did my part. And I can ask God for forgiveness. But to say like I was nasty to somebody and I'm asking God for forgiveness,
it doesn't work that way, right?
No. You first have to ask the person. And the person should be forgiving. But sometimes they're not. You have to mean it.
Right, so if you steal, if you beat up someone, whatnot, you can't just do shema. You have to go to the person and say, I'm sorry, or try to repair it.
I wish it was so easy as saying, I'm sorry, because in order to ask somebody forgiveness, you make yourself into a nothing. That's why it's so hard for people. It's very humiliating to ask somebody for forgiveness. But that's part of cleaning it up. Usually, almost always, you do something wrong to somebody because you felt big. So the tikkun for that, you repair it by making yourself small. You can't ask somebody for forgiveness from the top of a tall horse. You have to get down from your high horse.
You can't eat the horse.
And get on the ground. Can't eat the horse either. You have to get down off your high horse and down on your knees and make yourself small. I really shouldn't have done that. I really shouldn't have done that. But the circumstance, but the circumstances were no. I take 100% blame. I shouldn't have done that, no matter what the circumstances. And I'm sorry if there's anything I can do to make up for it. Okay, it's disgraceful that's what you do to yourself. Just the same as asking forgiveness from God. You have to make yourself very small. And that's what tshuva is about.
It's interesting.
So you disappear and appear again. Okay, thank you everybody for being here. And like I said, next week you'll find something entertaining to do. And we'll be back with chapter 8, God willing. I just finished chapter 8 yesterday, I hope. We'll have it ready in PDF form in 2 weeks, and chapter 8 is very, very interesting. Okay, see you all then.
That's correct.
Sure.